Have you ever wondered why certain people seem to find their way into your life just to create chaos, drain your energy, or disturb your peace? It almost feels as if they are drawn to your light, not to celebrate it, but to dim it. You try to be kind, to be patient, to understand. Yet, no matter what you do, they continue to cross your boundaries, disrespect your space, and leave you feeling exhausted. Now pause and ask yourself, why does this happen? Why do some people continue to disturb your life, while others seem untouched by such presence? The answer is simple, but powerful. It is not about changing others. It is about changing your relationship with yourself. There is one shift you can make internally that will stop toxic people from ever being able to affect you again. Not through confrontation, not through anger, but through understanding, awareness, and discipline. In the next few moments, you will discover how to take back control of your energy, how to create a presence so clear and rooted that those who thrive on chaos will no longer find comfort in your space. It only takes one decision, one act of inner power to begin. There is a principle in the ancient traditions that teaches, whatever disturbs your peace was allowed by you, not consciously perhaps, but energetically. For disturbance only enters where space has been made available. That space is called inner noise, unresolved tension, untrained attention, and undisciplined emotions. Toxic people thrive in environments where the inner world is already agitated. They are not creators of your imbalance. They are reflections of it. This understanding is not meant to blame you, but to awaken you. Because once you see that the disturbance originates from within, you also gain the power to transform it. Now, what is inner stillness? It is not passivity. It is not retreat. It is not pretending to be unaffected. Inner stillness is a deliberate practice. It is presence without turbulence, awareness without judgment, action without emotional leakage. When your mind is still, your energy is whole. When your energy is whole, it becomes like a smooth mirror. Nothing sticks, nothing distorts, and this is where power begins. A toxic person approaches you. They throw words like darts, sarcasm, criticism, manipulation. These are designed to provoke, designed to pull you into their vibration. But if your mind has been trained to stay still, if you have cultivated awareness, then you see through these tactics immediately. You do not internalize. You do not reflect back their darkness. You observe it. You allow it to pass through like wind through an open window. This stillness cannot be faked. It is not something you put on like a mask for one conversation. It is a state that is cultivated through daily practice. It is born from silence, from introspection, from repetition of discipline. Each time you resist the urge to react, you strengthen your center. Each time you observe rather than absorb, your clarity deepens. Eventually, that clarity becomes your natural state. Toxic people sense this. Even if they do not understand it, they feel it. They feel that their influence has no hook. They speak, but they cannot shake you. They insult, but you do not flinch. They seek chaos, but you remain calm. This disarms them. They feel powerless in your presence. And since they cannot feed on your energy, they retreat. But why does stillness have this effect? Because toxicity is a frequency. It vibrates at the level of insecurity, fear, ego, drama. Stillness vibrates higher at the level of truth, peace, presence. Two frequencies that are so different cannot harmonize. Either one rises or one leaves. Stillness, being rooted and unmoving, does not lower itself. It invites the other to elevate or disappear. You see, the strongest person is not the loudest. It is the one who does not need to explain. The one who does not need to argue. The one who sees clearly and acts silently. This is inner stillness. It is not weakness. It is power that has transcended the need for display. Now let us speak of how this stillness is developed. Not through knowledge alone, but through experience. You wake up in the morning, and before the noise of the world enters, you sit, you breathe, you observe, you teach your body to be still, you teach your mind to be quiet. You do this every day without exception. Why? Because the world does not wait. And if you are not grounded before the day begins, you will be pulled in every direction. Then, during the day, you remain watchful. Someone speaks to you with aggression. You watch your breath. Someone criticizes you unjustly. You feel your feet on the ground. Someone tries to manipulate you. You listen deeply, but you do not respond immediately. You pause, you allow space before you act. In that space, you regain control. That space is your strength. Stillness is not avoiding conflict. It is entering conflict with presence, with awareness, with an unshakable center. You do not suppress emotion. You master it. You do not reject people. You see them. You understand their wounds, but you do not allow their wounds to injure your peace. And over time, something profound happens. You become a person that toxic people avoid, not because you have built walls, but because you have removed the chaos that once allowed them entry. They no longer find familiarity in you. They no longer see a reflection of their own unrest. Instead, they find a calm that exposes their instability, and that calm is uncomfortable for them, so they move on. You have done nothing to push them away. You have simply become still, and that stillness has spoken louder than any words ever could. This is not magic. It is not theory. It is the natural outcome of training the mind to be undisturbed. And it begins the moment you decide to stop fighting what is outside and start mastering what is within. The moment you commit to stillness, not as an escape, but as a way of living, because the one who is still is not the one who runs away from life. It is the one who walks through life untouched by its storms. Not because the storms are gone, but because the inner sky has cleared. And when that inner sky is clear, nothing toxic can find a place to stay. There is a misconception in the modern world that boundaries must be loud, aggressive, or spoken with force to be effective. But true boundaries are not created through shouting or confrontation. They are formed through clarity and self-respect. They are quiet but immovable. They are firm yet without hostility. And when such boundaries are present, toxic people cannot enter. Not because you have pushed them away, but because your energy no longer allows their behavior to thrive. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. It does not argue with the wind. It does not yell at the rain. It simply stands, rooted deeply into the ground. In the same way, your boundaries must be rooted not in anger, but in understanding. You do not need to hate anyone to remove them from your life. You do not need to raise your voice to say no. You simply need to know yourself. Clarity is power. When you know who you are, what you allow, and what you do not, there is no room left for negotiation with chaos. Toxic people test you not only with their words, but with their patterns. They come close, they cross lines, they speak with hidden motives. And if you are unclear about your own value, your own worth, you may tolerate what does not belong in your space. But once you have created boundaries from clarity, something changes. You stop over-explaining, you stop pleasing, you stop shrinking to accommodate those who do not respect your presence. And most importantly, you stop expecting others to understand your limits, because you are no longer creating boundaries for them. You are creating them for yourself. When a toxic person realizes they can no longer manipulate you, they lose interest. When they realize their guilt cannot sway you, they walk away. And when they realize that your time, your peace, and your energy are guarded, not with rage, but with quiet strength, they begin to understand that your space is not for them. But it must be emphasized, boundaries are not about punishment. They are not created from resentment. If you build them from anger, they will crack. If you build them from fear, they will collapse. But if you build them from understanding, they become invisible walls that protect your inner temple. Not barriers to isolate you, but filters that decide what may enter and what must remain outside. How are these boundaries enforced? Not with force, but with consistency. You do not need to explain your every decision. You do not need to justify why you walk away. Your actions speak for you. The way you protect your time, the way you do not engage in drama, the way you decline invitations that do not resonate with your path. These small choices are louder than any argument, and they teach others how to treat you, not through confrontation, but through observation. It is easy to confuse kindness with weakness. Many people fall into this trap. They give and give and give until they are empty. They confuse being good with being available, but kindness without boundaries leads to resentment. Compassion without clarity leads to exhaustion. When you say yes while your soul screams no, you betray yourself, and that betrayal creates a crack in your foundation, one that toxic people find quickly. So you must learn to say no with peace. To say, "I don't accept this," without anger, to walk away without explanation, and to do so without guilt, because you are not responsible for how others respond to your boundaries. You are only responsible for honoring them. This way of living is not about building walls around the heart. It is about clearing the path to your center, so that only those who walk in respect, in presence, in mutual understanding, are allowed to stay. And when someone crosses the line, you do not need to react with fury. You simply correct course. You step back. You re-center. You allow them to feel the consequence of your silence, your absence, your stillness. Toxic people do not like boundaries because boundaries remove their control, but their discomfort is not your burden. Your peace is not up for negotiation, and your clarity is not a weapon. It is a form of inner discipline, a form of alignment, a form of respect for your time on this earth. To live this way, you must become comfortable with being misunderstood. You must accept that not everyone will applaud your decisions. Some will call you cold, others will call you selfish, but that is the noise that arises when you begin to honor your own needs. Do not fear it, walk through it. On the other side, there is freedom. And what happens when you live with this kind of boundary? You no longer fear confrontation because it rarely happens. You no longer fear toxic people because they no longer linger. Your life begins to reflect your inner clarity. Your space becomes sacred. Your relationships become refined, and your energy, once scattered in 100 directions, returns home. This is the quiet strength of someone who has built walls from self-respect, not to keep others out, but to protect what is within. Not to isolate, but to elevate, not to separate, but to preserve the harmony of a life that no longer tolerates what is false. In every interaction, you are given a choice to react or to respond. This choice may seem subtle, almost invisible, but it defines the difference between being mastered by the moment or mastering it. Toxic people are not powerful because of their words or their actions. They are powerful only when they can control your attention, when they can pull you into reaction. But when you shift from reaction to response, their influence dissolves like smoke in the wind. Reaction is fast, it is emotional, it comes from the unconscious layers of the mind, where old wounds, patterns, and insecurities are stored. When someone insults you, blames you, criticizes you, your body tenses, your breath shortens, and before you even realize it, words leave your mouth. This is reaction. It is instinctive, not intentional. It is automatic, not aware, and toxic people depend on this, because when you react, they gain control. Response, on the other hand, is deliberate. It is calm. It is born not from impulse, but from observation. The moment something disturbs your peace, you pause, you return to your breath, you create space inside yourself, and from this space you choose. This choice is not weak, it is powerful because it is no longer tied to emotion. It is anchored in clarity. A person throws anger at you, expecting you to explode, but you do not. You observe, you feel the heat rising inside, but you do not move with it. You watch it like a flame. You allow the energy to pass through you without becoming it. In this moment, your silence speaks louder than 1,000 arguments. You have not surrendered. You have transcended. You have refused to play the game they invited you into. Toxic people thrive on drama. But drama cannot exist without a stage, and the stage is built by reaction. If you do not react, the scene cannot begin. You remove the fuel. You end the performance before it starts. And when this happens, the one who tried to provoke you is left alone with their own noise. But how do you train this level of presence? It begins not in the conflict itself, but in the moments before it. Every day, life gives you small opportunities to practice. Someone cuts you off in traffic. A stranger speaks rudely. A colleague misunderstands your intention. These moments seem ordinary, but they are sacred training grounds. If you can remain aware in the small disturbances, you build strength for the larger ones. Your nervous system becomes disciplined. Your emotions become balanced. You no longer rise and fall with every external movement. There is a deep power in knowing that you do not need to answer every insult, that you do not need to correct every false accusation, that you do not need to attend every argument you are invited to, not because you are weak, but because you are free. And freedom means choosing what enters your mind. It means choosing what energy you absorb and what you release. Each time you choose response over reaction, you take back your power. You become a mirror, clear, still, undistorted. Others may try to shake you, but they only see their own reflection. This makes toxic people uncomfortable because they are used to control. They are used to causing confusion. But when they face someone grounded in clarity, their methods lose effect. They are seen through. Not judged, not attacked, just seen. And being seen without reaction is something they cannot manipulate. It is important to understand that this is not indifference. You are not closing your heart. You are not becoming numb. You are simply shifting your center inward. You are learning to act from consciousness, not conditioning. You are learning to respond from presence, not from the past. And in doing so, you become untouchable, not because you are above others, but because you are no longer below your own awareness. This does not mean you avoid confrontation. It means you enter it wisely. When words are needed, you speak with precision. When silence is more powerful, you remain quiet. You are not controlled by your mood, nor by the moods of others. Your actions are guided by insight. Your responses come from balance. This kind of discipline is rare. It requires training. You must be willing to sit with your emotions. You must be willing to feel them fully without expressing them unconsciously. You must be willing to lose arguments in order to win peace. And in that peace, you find something extraordinary, the ability to remain calm in the presence of chaos, the ability to remain clear when others are confused, the ability to remain kind even when others are cruel. This is mastery. It is not achieved in a single day. It is cultivated over time, through repeated practice, through countless moments of choosing differently, and eventually, what once felt difficult becomes natural. Your reactions soften, your presence deepens, and toxic people no longer find the same openings in you, not because they have changed, but because you have. Your silence becomes your shield, your breath becomes your anchor, your awareness becomes your weapon, and slowly the battles outside you begin to fade. Because the war inside you is no longer raging, you have learned to respond, and in that one simple act, everything changes. There is a presence a person carries when their life is guided by discipline, clarity, and inner stillness. It is not loud. It does not seek attention. It is not dressed in outward displays of power. But it is felt, and those who live in chaos, those who thrive on disorder and control, feel it most intensely. Because when you walk with inner order, you automatically disturb the disorder in others. Your peace becomes a mirror they cannot stand to face. When your behavior reflects consistency and balance, you no longer serve as a match to the unpredictability toxic people bring. Chaos cannot harmonize with order. It resists it, it struggles near it, but it cannot stay. This is the quiet power of self-mastery. It is the ability to be so well directed from within that the confusion of others finds no place to land inside you. This form of discipline is not merely about routine, it is about energy. Every action you take, every habit you maintain, reflects the structure of your inner world. A person who has trained themselves to act with integrity, who rises with purpose, who speaks only when necessary, and listens more than they speak, such a person carries an aura that unsettles those who live untrained lives. Because they do not recognize it, they cannot manipulate it, they cannot bend it to their games. There is no invitation to drama in a life that is focused. There is no doorway for manipulation in a mind that is centered. This does not mean that toxic people do not try to enter. It means they cannot stay, because your stability becomes their discomfort. Your silence reveals their noise, and your presence becomes a form of resistance, not by effort, but by natural vibration. Those who have not mastered themselves look for others to control. They seek weakness, insecurity, and the need for validation. These are their points of entry. But when you discipline your mind, when your thoughts are not scattered, when you know your values, when you walk with calmness even when others tremble, you give them nothing to grab onto. A person who is grounded in themselves does not flinch when confronted. They do not explain excessively. They do not entertain circles of confusion. Their clarity becomes like a sword, cutting through illusion, not by aggression, but by truth. And truth is something that toxicity cannot survive. This is why self-mastery is the ultimate deterrent. It is not about changing the world outside. It is about training the world within so precisely that you become incompatible with dysfunction. Your responses slow down. Your intentions sharpen. Your presence becomes neutral. Without being passive, you are no longer entangled in emotional bait. You see it for what it is, and in that moment of seeing, the power of it ends. What toxic people fear most is not being shouted at. It is being seen clearly. And when you have trained yourself to observe, to recognize patterns, to remain steady in the face of manipulation, you become the very reflection they try to avoid. Because your discipline reveals their lack of it. Your control exposes their chaos. Your stillness shows them what they are unwilling to become. This process does not require confrontation. It does not require cutting people out with dramatic gestures. It simply requires you to remain so aligned with your own path that those who do not belong on it fall away. They stop coming to you. Or if they come, they do not return. Because being around you feels like pressure. The kind of pressure that forces people to confront themselves, and toxic people do not like that kind of confrontation. You do not have to defend your peace loudly. You only have to live in it consistently. Your focus is your boundary. Your discipline is your armor. The way you rise, speak, walk, and carry yourself silently communicates. This space is not for chaos. Many people believe that they must change others to be at peace. But true transformation begins with self-regulation. If your energy is calm, focused, and uncluttered, others cannot easily project their energy onto you. You are no longer reactive. You do not feed their drama. And slowly, their attempts to disturb you become exhausting for them. There is nothing more powerful than a human being who knows themselves, who wakes up each day and moves deliberately, who listens more than they speak, who only enters situations that match their values, who has trained their emotions to serve rather than rule. This kind of person becomes immune to manipulation, not because they resist, but because they do not participate. It is this discipline, quiet, subtle, often unnoticed, that removes toxicity from your life without a single confrontation. People stop trying to control you because it no longer works. People stop disrespecting you because your self-respect makes it awkward for them. People stop draining your energy because your energy has become protected by clarity. In this way, you become a different kind of person. Not someone who avoids challenges, but someone who moves through them untouched. Not someone who fights battles every day, but someone who no longer attracts them. Your life changes not because others have improved, but because you have elevated, and in that elevation, toxic energy simply cannot breathe. It cannot find air in your presence, so it leaves, not through force, but through the quiet command of disciplined being. There is a common misconception that detachment is a form of indifference, that to detach is to no longer care. But this is not true. Detachment, in its purest form, is the highest expression of care. It is not the absence of emotion, but the ability to hold space for it without being controlled by it. It is the art of being involved, yet not entangled. To see things clearly without being blinded by judgment or desire. This is what removes the power of toxic people over your inner world. Toxic individuals seek engagement. They feed on emotional chaos. Whether it is your anger, your sadness, your confusion, each reaction is energy you give them. And the more you give, the more they return to feed. But when you become detached, not from life but from drama, something shifts. You remain aware, you still feel, you still care, but you no longer allow that care to pull you into emotional traps. Your presence becomes clean, steady, and unavailable for manipulation. This kind of detachment cannot be forced. It must be cultivated through awareness, through breath, through watching your own thoughts like passing clouds. It is easy to speak of being calm until someone disrespects you. It is easy to say you are at peace until someone provokes you. In these moments, your detachment is tested, not because you do not feel the sting, but because you choose not to react from the sting. You give yourself space before you move. This space becomes your strength. Compassion without detachment becomes self-destruction. You carry the weight of others' pain. You overextend. You tolerate behaviors that drain your life force. You say yes when you mean no. And eventually, you become resentful. Not because others are toxic, but because you never created the boundary between their suffering and your own. Detachment brings that boundary back. It teaches you, I can walk with someone, but I do not have to carry them. I can support someone, but I do not have to lose myself in the process. When you detach, you no longer try to fix others. You see clearly that people will only change when they are ready, and many are not. Many are attached to their drama, to their identity, to their patterns. You cannot drag someone to awareness. You cannot force someone to heal. What you can do is remain steady in your own clarity, and from that place extend compassion, not as a sacrifice, but as a choice. It is this form of detachment that allows you to remain soft in a hard world. You do not become bitter. You do not close your heart. You simply stop allowing the emotions of others to dictate your path. You still care, but that care is rooted in wisdom. You observe suffering, but you do not drown in it. You witness manipulation, but you do not become reactive to it. You recognize patterns, but you do not fight them. You let go of the need to change others, and instead change your response to them. There is a deep strength in being able to say, "This is not mine," and walk away, not from a place of judgment, but from self-preservation. Toxic people will try to make their problems yours. They will make you feel guilty for choosing your peace. They will accuse you of being cold or distant. But when you are truly detached, you hear these words without absorbing them. You understand that their discomfort is not your responsibility. Their reactions do not define your truth. To reach this level, you must learn to sit with your own emotions first, to watch them rise and fall like waves on a calm ocean. You do not need to suppress them. You do not need to act on them. You simply observe. This is the training ground for detachment, because once you master your own reactions, the reactions of others lose their power over you. The goal is not to feel less. The goal is to feel fully without being enslaved by those feelings. The goal is to remain rooted in who you are, even when others try to uproot you. This way, when a toxic person enters your space, you do not resist them with force. You do not argue, you do not defend, you simply do not engage in their storm. You stay calm, you stay present, and they, seeing that there is no reaction, eventually lose interest. Your detachment becomes like a mirror. It reflects their chaos back to them. It shows them what they are without words, and for many this is uncomfortable, because they are used to stirring others. But with you, there is no stirring, there is only silence. There is only presence, and in that presence, their influence disappears. This is not about removing love. It is about placing that love where it is deserved. It is about knowing that compassion can exist without self-sacrifice. That kindness does not require tolerance of abuse. That peace is not a passive state, but an active discipline. When you practice detachment with compassion, your relationships transform. You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop seeking validation. You stop participating in cycles of pain. You simply show up, fully aware, fully open, but inwardly free. And this freedom protects your energy better than any wall ever could. No storm can move a mountain that has rooted itself deeply into the earth. In the same way, no toxic person can move you when your spirit is anchored in detachment. You become available to life, but not controlled by it. You feel everything, but carry nothing that does not belong to you. When you walk the path of self-mastery, you no longer seek to control the outer world. You learn to govern the inner one. Toxic people lose their grip not because they have changed, but because you have. Through inner stillness, firm yet compassionate boundaries, conscious responses, disciplined presence, and detached awareness, you create a space where peace becomes your natural state. Not something you chase, but something you embody. In this state, toxicity simply has no place. It cannot survive where clarity, presence, and self-respect reside. This journey is not always easy. It requires patience, awareness, and daily practice. But with every step, you move closer to a life where your energy is protected, your mind is calm, and your spirit remains untouched by the noise of others. And when you become this version of yourself, not only do toxic people fall away, but you attract those who live with the same depth, the same respect, and the same peace. Good luck on your path of transformation. May you continue to walk with clarity, strength, and compassion. Thank you for taking the time to listen, to reflect, and to grow. The journey begins within, and that is where your greatest power lies.